cannot stop laughing at the January Sixers, including what's his name from Bob Burgers? Who's the Jan Sixer? Who plays Pesto? Jimmy Pesto on Bob's Burgers. Jay Johnston. Yes, Jay Johnston, who's also there on January 6th doing a little insurrection. His wife, who was on Twitter, crying today about how mean everyone is and how unfair it is. And it's so funny to me because these are the same motherfuckers who scream and cry and lie about immigrants getting $10,000 from the government, getting handouts, right? Immigrants getting free handouts from the government. These same people who are actually the ones who think that they deserve a handout from the government, the very same government that they tried to do an insurrection on. They tried to overturn the legal election results. Like they did a crime. They did so many crimes. And now, oh my God, you're reaping what you fucking sow. Me reaping. Or me sowing. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Me reaping. Oh God, it's not fair. His wife tried to blame Tim Heidecker for him being seen at January 6th. It's so pathetically hypocritical. If it was a crime, then why were they pardoned and paid? That's true. Also, how many pedophiles are we up to now that were a part of January 6th and have been pardoned, but then also have been sent back to prison for doing pedophilia? Oh yeah, it's a lot. Okay, this is Jay Johnston's wife. Chatter Juju, thank you for the 9 months. Broadcast from Poor Farm, thank you for the tier 1. Carl Marksman, thank you for the 3 months. Leslie, thank you for the tier 1. Sarah Radovanovich. Sarah Radovanovich, who is married to Jay Johnston, who was an actor. And you probably know him best from Bob's Burgers. Here's her fucking essay that she wrote on Twitter today. This goddamn essay. We lost everything over January 6th. Hold on a second. We lost everything over J6. My husband, Jay Johnston, is an actor and comedian with a career spanning over 3 decades. A lifetime of work in the entertainment industry disappeared overnight, replaced with a campaign designed to banish us from society completely. Networks and studios publicly blacklisted him before any charges or arrest. He was fired from Bob's Burgers and several other ongoing projects. Theaters around Los Angeles put messages up on their marquees. Social media filled up with thousands of death threats and hateful messages. Friends disappeared. We were debanked. Everything we ever worked for was gone. We went from working in Hollywood for decades to doing handyman jobs just to survive. Federal agents raided our home at dawn. They dragged us out of bed in our underwear at gunpoint and forced him to kneel in the dirt while the entire neighborhood watched. The government and media worked together to destroy us. I lost my career, even though I wasn't even there that day. Our daughter, who was only 11 and has autism, was kicked out of her special needs programs. The only person I feel bad for here is the daughter, okay? And yeah, I don't believe that is what happened, though. But I do feel bad for the daughter. She's got some real fuck-ass, stupid-ass parents. School administrators denied us. Other parents boycotted us and wouldn't let their kids near. She was placed on the Quiet Skies terrorist watch list and subjected to repeated invasive searches at the airport. Oh, well, maybe you shouldn't have done an insurrection, you dumb fucks! Excuse me. The sensory overload was so bad we couldn't take her to visit her grandfather while he was going through cancer treatment. Our story is not unique. Hundreds of other families went through similar nightmares. Some lost their homes, businesses, marriages, and children. Military benefits gone. Fathers spent years in prison. Many were in solitary confinement, denied medical care and religious services, missing funerals and family milestones. The stress destroyed their health. Some J6ers even took their own lives. It is time for restitution. Every ruined life, every traumatized child, and every stolen year demands full accountability and fair compensation. The amounts must reflect the true, permanent damage done. Lost careers that span decades, destroyed futures, and irreplaceable family time. So victims are made whole, not given token settlements. I don't know. Maybe don't do an insurrection. Maybe just shut your entire ass up here. These are the same people who would say that it's racist to white people for indigenous folks to demand reparations, for Black Americans to demand reparations, for people in this country who have been genocided, who have been enslaved, who have been historically oppressed by white supremacist America. Those groups that deserve reparations, these motherfuckers would turn around and be like, that's racist towards white people. That's not fair. Same ones who are now demanding restitution because, like a bunch of meth heads, as Azalea Banks said, they scrambled up the walls of the Capitol and tried to overturn the election results. What? Y'all are the biggest babies. Y'all are the biggest babies. Truly. High treason. And they're like, it's not fair. We are the victims here. Honestly, based off every member of Mr. Show to not associate with Jay after Jay's. Honestly, based every member of Mr. Show to not... Mr. Austin's show? Or do you mean of Bob's Burgers? Snowflakes are white after all. Yeah. And the other thing is that they have already gotten so much because Trump pardoned Jan Sixers. Like they have their president in power who's trying to cook up a 1.776, get it? 1776, $1.776 billion anti-weaponization fund for him and all his allies to compensate his allies who were unfairly treated. They were so mistreated. Mr. Show is the name of their show. I gotcha. David Cross and Bob Odenkirk, it's where Jay got his start. Yeah, they don't fuck with him. Why would anybody normal fuck with Jay Johnston? They got a literal get out of jail free card. Yeah. Their guy is in office. Give me a fucking break. Are you kidding me? Zephyr, thank you for the 4 months. And so she was replying, Sarah Radovinovich was replying to this guy. Remember this guy? So happy stealing the lectern. So happy. Here's his post. On a serious note, I'm writing up my complaint against the DOJ and submitting it this week. Maybe I'll fly to DC and deliver it personally. My situation is different than most. The infamy gained from this photo will be in history books. What they did to me will have a generational effect on my family and their loved ones. I was mocked and called a thief by Jimmy Kimmel, John Krasinski, and Jim Carrey. The three J's. They called me a thief. My face and the accusation of being a thief was shared globally for years. It still persists today, harming my chances to win my local election or lead a normal life. Public school teachers told my children and their friends that their dad was a terrorist. My wife's reputation was dragged through the mud. Death threats caused her work to have to hire private security. USF denied my re-entry into college. I had to fight to get my gun rights back. My guns that they tried to take away. But luckily it's America, so you can do an insurrection and still have gun rights. It's totally fine. It's totally fine. You can do an insurrection, you can do treason against the government, and you can get your guns back. Don't worry, just so you know. My children and myself were subjected to additional screenings by TSA. And we're not Muslim. That's what they do to the Arabs. That's what they do to the Muslims. But they did that to me and my children. My federal probation officer tried to stop me from speaking out on Timcast. It's my guy. Warning that more death threats might come if I choose to talk. My attorney fees were $100,000. I was fined $5,000 and I lost 5 years of my life to date fighting the lies that they told about me. We spent an additional $150,000 in publicity trying to clear my name and restore my reputation. The DOJ could have chosen to release the evidence clearing my name, but withheld it. They maliciously charged me with felony theft. We lost things that can never be restored. But if they choose to do the right thing and restore the J6ers, we can finally finish setting things right. I mean, what? It's not like there's a photo of me stealing the lectern after I broke into the Capitol. What do they expect me to do? Not break into the Capitol? And steal the lectern? And take a photo waving and smiling? This is America. This is America. Girl, how did you time the music so perfectly? It's called being a theater kid. Okay? Hi, you tried to overthrow the government. I don't know if you guys remember that. Like, do the January 6ers need to be reminded what January 6th was? What that was all about? His Twitter handle, his Twitter handle is literally the lectern guy. This fucking guy who's like, I can't believe there were photos of me all over the world stealing the lectern. They're calling me the lectern guy? What? This is so mean. I deserve so much compensation for that. Prince Lectern Guy, the Lectern Guy, at Lectern Leader, header and profile photo of him stealing the lectern. Even Fox News for a moment was like, this is too much. Fox News was like, oh, God, here we go. Gonna have to defend these clowns. Yeah, and the pinned tweet as well. This guy is such a fucking joke. Oh, my God. Maybe it's a parody account. No. I don't think it is, but these people all feel like a parody. Fox News said, girl, no. Girl, no. These people are so fucking delusional. And again, these are the same, this is the same crowd who will scream about immigrants, right? Talk about how they're stealing everything. How Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, the Democrats are just handing out thousands of dollars. And it's like, no, that's your guy. No, that's you. No, that's your group and your guy who's the fucking president. People like this dude will support throwing random BLM protesters in jail. They support throwing trans people in jail. They're like, yeah, trans people should be in jail for being trans. I'm innocent. Every single factor of his profile is red-handed proof of the felony. It's so, and again, it's that mentality. You know, these people who are like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You know, it's all about making it, right? That's you work hard and you achieve the American dream, blah, 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 blah. And how they blame everyone but themselves. It's comically indignant. It really is. They are mad at everyone except, and they'll never be mad at Donald Trump either. There's like a few Jan 6ers who since January 6, 2021 have been like, yeah, what was I doing? Yeah, you know what? That was crazy. I actually hate Donald Trump now. There's a few, but a lot of them, especially the loudest ones, are very much so only more deeply entrenched in the feeling of being the true victims in this country. Yeah, never blame yourself. Always blame others. It goes all the way to the top. It's Astro, thank you for the tier 1. Sarah, thank you for the 5 months. Good God. I just can't get over the fact that Trump is like, here, let me try to get $2 billion. Let me try to get $2 billion because you're right. We are the victims here. We were victimized by Regina George Biden. Didn't people literally go to jail for quoting Charlie Kirk's own? There are people who went to jail for a longer period of time for quoting either Donald Trump or Charlie Kirk's own words, then went to jail for participating in an insurrection. Like, just sit with that one for a sec, you know? There are people who went to jail longer for memes, for posting memes. A Jan 6er was picked on Kill Tony. The interview was a deep dive into the MAGA mind like I've never experienced before. Whoa. Speaking of Charlie
Give me
Kirk.
that work. Niggas talk out the side of their neck like Charlie Kirk. What's the worth? Baby girl left with a smirk, neck busted like Charlie Kirk. On the run now, what's the purse? But it aim for the neck like Charlie Kirk. Bitch hit the earth. She alright in the end, lean left like Charlie Kirk. We try not to step and sleep when she sleep. If the cameras are free, the for actions and killing. The top about all the next turning like Tina. I'm coughing and Joey.
I will say, which I have said so many times, it is unbelievable how we went from, if you post Charlie Kirk's own words, you'll go to federal prison, right? Your life is over. They'll put you on FBI watch list. To now, Charlie Kirk is such a fucking joke, and the people who pretended to care about him aren't pretending anymore. They've got other things to pretend to care about.
Give me that work. Niggas talk out the side of their neck like Charlie Kirk. What's the worth? Baby girl left with a smirk, neck busted like Charlie Kirk. On the run now, what's the purse? But it aim for the neck like Charlie
Just
Kirk.
memed.
The earth. She alright in the end, lean
If Charlie Kirk were still alive, he would have been memed to
left
death.
like Charlie Kirk. We try not to step and sleep when she sleep. If the cameras are free, the for actions and killing. The top about all the next turning.
God. Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. Truly couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. Man, that guy. Okay, let's watch a little vid. Let's watch a little Leisha vid on this
May 20th,
to learn more about this slush fund for these Jan 6ers.
I'm your lawyer friend, Leisha Miller. On Monday, the Trump administration and the IRS announced a settlement of the lawsuit Trump, his family, and his businesses had brought against the IRS, asking for $10 billion in damages due to a leak of Trump's tax returns back in 2020. The 9-page settlement agreement created a nearly
Yeah, and basically he's like, you can't come after me or my family for taxes that we did not pay in the past, which is pretty much the entirety of the Trump family past. They're like, yeah, you cannot come after us for taxes that we forgot to pay That's part of the settlement. Like,
billion-dollar
oh, okay.
slush fund and a 5-member panel handpicked by the president's personal lawyer, Todd Blanche, who also happens to be heading the DOJ at the moment. That panel will then be able
Also
to secretly
in
award
perpetuity.
money from that taxpayer-funded
Just
slush
fucking
fund
crazy.
to anyone they want who applies.
Why should we pay taxes? Genuinely. I know we say this all the time. I know every year tax season rolls around, we're like, hey, what if we just didn't pay taxes because fuck this shit? But this settlement and now the subsequent attempt to procure a $1.7 billion anti-weaponization fund for Trump allies, I'm like, why am I paying so many taxes? Hello? Why am I paying federal taxes?
Applies for
Once
compensation
again.
for being victims of lawfare and the weaponization of the DOJ under Biden. Everyone obviously
Always the
immediately
goddamn
understood
grift.
that to mean the people who were prosecuted for their illegal activity
Hey there, off topic. I was curious if there's a link to the Discord. Should be ! Discord. Also, Keisha, thank you for the 9 months.
in relation to the January 6th
Yeah,
insurrection.
you know what? Jeff Bezos thinks we shouldn't pay taxes. Jeff Bezos is like, look, rich people like me, we shouldn't pay taxes. But also, the bottom 50% shouldn't pay taxes to even it out.
As well as many of Trump's allies and lackeys who have faced prosecution for their own illegal activities over the years. James Comey has said he might apply for compensation because of all of the bogus charges the Trump DOJ has brought against him over the last year, but we all know that he's not who this taxpayer-funded slush fund is for. This settlement and the anti-weaponization fund is something that every American needs to be paying close attention to because it represents a level of unprecedented self-dealing by the President of the United States at such an astronomical scale that it's truly breathtaking in its audacity. And we're the ones who will be paying for it. Today, we're breaking down what the fuck is going on and why Trump's new slush fund for all his loyalists is completely beyond the pale. I know we talk politics and serious things around here, but I want to just say right now for the record that this is also a
Found out recently that I paid more taxes for one item in 2022 than any of the gas companies in Australia in 2026. Love that.
The fascists hate to see you enjoying yourself despite the
Love
wars.
that.
To help you get there, I'm partnering with Balessa for today's
Dude,
video.
if Trump
I'm
doesn't
thrilled to
die of
say
old
my
age before
friends at
2028, the
Balessa
country's
and
gonna
I
go broke. It
literally
already
giving
technically
out
already
free
are since they're dead
vibrators.
at China,
Everyone
etc.
who
But
signs up at my link in the
Trump
description
is,
wins a
he's
free
gonna die.
rose suction
Don't
toy
worry.
with
I've
your
put
order.
it, so
The
put it
rose
into
is
the
the
universe.
viral TikTok
All right.
sensation
I've
that has
hired
10
every
different
Etsy
modes
witch.
packaged
I
in
have
one cute,
manifested.
discreet little rose that fits
I
right in the
have
palm of
been
your hand.
manifesting that.
Balessa's mission is to empower
So,
everyone to embrace, explore,
I
and
do
celebrate
believe.
their sexuality. And I love that for me and for you. You
I
may
do-
already know and love the
I
Pebble,
do
the little
believe
ergonomic powerhouse that has independently
that it-
controlled suction
that-
and
I do believe
vibration.
we will
But I'd
win.
also like you to meet the newest addition to the Balessa line.
What
the
is
Pebble
this?
Pro.
Is this a-
It's
oh.
stronger and more powerful,
I
and with an
didn't
extended
even
battery
notice
life,
that.
you don't have to worry about unexpected disappointment.
There's
and it comes
there's
with
just a
3
vibrator on the
interchangeable heads
screen.
plus 5
It's the
different
rose toy.
vibration
Everybody's
speakers.
doing
So it's about as
everybody's doing
customizable as
the
it gets.
vibrator
Next,
dildo
check out
ads
the
now.
Ear Vibe.
It's
It has
basically
dual
for
capabilities.
leftists
It is
online.
quiet,
It's ground
discreet,
news,
and comes in a
and then
very
it's
cute little case.
boutique
And finally, the
Balessa.
Thump, a little gadget that
It's
does it all.
basically,
It vibrates,
here's an
suctions,
aggregate of
thumps.
news,
It's
or
waterproof,
here's a
USB
dildo.
chargeable. They are innovating over at Balessa, and I'd like
That's
you to
all. That's
experience
all
it
that
for
people can
yourselves.
get.
And you better bet I'm hooking you up. Everyone who signs up using my link in the description wins a
Caroline, you're
free
gonna
rose
misplace one of the
suction toy
candle
with your
emojis again and
order.
make him
Click the
immortal.
link in my
Shit, you mean
description
like
and
I
grab your
did
new
with,
vibe now. Have a
you,
little
like I
fun
did when I
just
tried to
like
do
the
a
horrors.
candle
Thanks so much to
seance
Balessa
for
partnering
Charles
with me
Melton
on
to
today's
get
video.
nominated
Okay,
for an
let's back
Oscar,
up.
and then
Here's
he
what's going
didn't.
on. Back in January of this year, Trump and his family sued the IRS for the leak of their
I was really upset when my mom recognized one of these sponsorships. No. Because, and I'm sorry. Sorry if this is too personal. Your mom should get to jack off. Okay? Your mom should have orgasms. All right? There is no such thing as being too old, being too mom. All right? Rev it up, ladies. Yeah. Especially if it's like, I don't know. Okay, now I'm getting real personal, but stop, please. I'm just saying, let moms flick the bean, you know? All right, that's it.
Tax returns. I put leak in air quotes because, yes, technically it was a leak. A government
You posted
contractor
it in
named
chat.
Charles Littlejohn stole tax documents from the IRS and released them publicly without permission. He was found guilty and sentenced to 5 years
Mom's
in
got a
prison
nut.
back in
They do.
2024. But the injustice that Trump allegedly faced in this disclosure was nothing more egregious than what every major presidential candidate for decades has voluntarily disclosed in their tax returns. But instead of being forthcoming with the American people about his finances, which he absolutely should be, because if you want to hold that level of power, it absolutely must come with a level of sacrifice of your personal privacy. If you want to be a private individual and have no one want to know stuff about your personal finances to understand your potential conflicts of interest, then you should not volunteer to be president of the United States. Instead, he's claiming he was harmed by
All right, just gotta. Wow. Whew. Okay. Recalibrating. This chatter is never coming back. They've died.
this disclosure and was asking for $10 billion in compensation, which would of course be paid for by U.S. taxpayers to the President of the United States. The lawsuit on its own was so blatantly corrupt that even when it was first filed, Trump was like, yeah, this is pretty wild, ain't it? And just to really drive home the point, the IRS is part of the Treasury Department and is ultimately controlled by the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent. And Scott Bessent serves at the pleasure and direction of Donald Trump.
Oh,
the
pleasure.
IRS is part of the executive branch. The DOJ is supposed to be independent, but its last AG, Pam Bondi, said it worked for Donald Trump. Todd Blanche literally worked for Donald Trump as his personal attorney, and the DOJ is technically under the executive branch. Not only that, but Todd Blanche worked as Trump's personal attorney on the Mar-a-Lago documents case that was also part of this settlement agreement that created the slush fund. So it's Trump suing the Trump administration and the Trump administration
not the kind of pleasure
agreeing
we're
to a
talking
settlement
about.
with Trump. Just so we're clear on the level of self-dealing here. So on Monday, Trump and Trump's Trump-controlled IRS together agreed to settle the lawsuit with Trump and the Trump family. Trump agreed to drop his charges, but of course he has to get something in return. So in exchange for Trump dropping his claim against the Trump-controlled IRS related to the leak of his tax documents, as well as his claims against the U.S. related to the investigation into his collusion with Russia during the 2016 election, and the search of his Mar-a-Lago compound for classified documents that he did indeed possess there, in exchange for dropping all of his claims related to all those issues.
Yeah, which he was just like waving around at Mar-a-Lago.
The DOJ will create a $1.8 billion slush fund for him. Well, actually, its total value will be $1.776 billion to be exact. Get it? 17.
It's like stupid on top of corrupt, right? Evil that is so stupid.
76, America. Todd Blanche's memo supporting the creation of this slush fund says that number is based on, quote, the projected valuation of future claimants' claims. Right. It just happens to start with 1776 on our 250th anniversary year that Trump
Okay, anyway, sorry, I was in the middle of watching this.
Trump is maniacally obsessed with. Right. Like, I'm sorry, but that's right there. That's just the Attorney General of the United States lying to us.
Where am I from? I am from the Midwest. So I grew up mostly right outside Chicago in the suburbs. Then went to high school in Iowa, went to college in St. Louis, came back to Chicago, worked in politics, moved to Los Angeles in 2016, and have been here for a decade.
In writing. They picked 1776 for symbolic reasons, not based on the projected valuation of future claimants' claims. And I'm sure the men who wrote and signed the Declaration of Independence in 1776 would absolutely be on board with whatever the fuck is happening in America today. A president stealing almost $2 billion of taxpayer money to pay a group of people who attempted to storm the Capitol and subvert the will of Congress and also murder sitting legislators. Yeah, that sounds right. The funds would come from the Judgment Fund, which is a permanent appropriation that the federal government uses to pay out court judgments and settlements against the U.S. So you sue the U.S., you win monetary damages, you get paid out of that fund. Conveniently, the special anti-weaponization fund will only exist during this Trump term and will get dissolved on December 15th, 2028. And again, just to drive home the point of how blatant this self-dealing is, the judge on the Trump v. IRS lawsuit wasn't even sure she could hear the case. The parties in a lawsuit have to be what's called sufficiently diverse, meaning you can't can't sue yourself. Now, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure that's some day one law school stuff. You can't sue yourself and then settle your lawsuit with yourself. And you certainly can't then make someone else pay for the settlement you made with yourself, unless apparently you're the president of the United States. And so the judge is like, I'm not sure
Both Donald Trump and Ethan Klein being like, oh yeah, watch me.
this isn't just you suing yourself here. She didn't rule either way. She just said there's a question of law there and asked the parties to brief her on the issue. The hearing to try to answer that question was scheduled for next week. And what do you know? They announced this settlement just in time. So instead of engaging with the legal process at all, the parties agreed to settle, which is such a perverse use of the legal system. Self-dealing by bringing a lawsuit so you can settle said lawsuit without actually engaging in.
Have you spent some time in both? What LA has that NYC doesn't have is the ability to breathe. In New York, it's all about how you're going to make it. New York definitely has a pace that is nonstop. And I do appreciate, which is why I haven't left LA, why I ended up picking LA over New York. I appreciate what you said, like the ability to breathe. There is a lot of great culture here, but there is absolutely the sadistic elements of culture in Los Angeles, which is all it's all commodified. I mean, it's just fucking capitalism, but there are definitely people who perpetrate these attitudes of everything is an opportunity for clout and to like graduate into this specific class of cool people. So I love Los Angeles and I will always defend the city and a lot of the people who live here. But there's definitely a lot of terrible fuckos who really have bought into the idea that fame is the most important thing. And however you achieve that fame, it doesn't matter, right? Like the ends justify the means.
The legal process at all. It's just a pretense for a settlement and an exchange of money, period. And Blanche is claiming that there's no reason that the judge should need to approve this settlement, that there should be no judicial oversight at all. Per the terms of the agreement, Blanche, as the sitting attorney general, picks 5 people to be on the commission overseeing the slush fund. So you know that means Trump is actually the one doing the choosing. And then, per the terms of the agreement, Trump can fire any of them whenever he wants. So it's a nearly $2 billion.
LA is so great, y'all. We love LA or New York. Don't come to Chicago. Lots of crime. Very danger, Will Robinson. Definitely don't go to Chicago. I heard it really sucks. I heard Chicago is honestly not that great, so people should not go.
$1 slush fund of our taxpayer money, and Trump has ultimate control over who gets that money. There is zero assurance of transparency into how the commission deliberates, how they award monetary damages, how they choose who to award money to. It's just unfettered access to almost $2 billion of our taxpayer dollars to pay out likely to the people who attempted to overthrow our government.
Oh, you mean white supremacists and Proud Boys and people who still believe that the election was stolen?
January 6th, 2021. And just as one small example of the absolute fucking mockery that Todd Blanche is making of the federal judicial system, in the memo attempting to back up this whole slush fund with bogus legal arguments, Blanche points to precedent from the Obama era in which the judgment fund was tapped to pay out settlements to Native American farmers who had been denied access to federal loans. However, that case, Keep Siegel versus Vilsack, was related to Native American farmers unaffiliated with the Obama administration seeking redress for improper behavior by the Department of Agriculture. It wasn't Obama suing the Department of Agriculture and then making a slush fund available to his allies. The case at issue is literally called Trump versus the IRS. But this is a pattern we see over and over again in this administration, which is the use of just enough legalese that anyone who's interested in just looking the other way and taking these people at their word might have just enough plausible deniability to say, well, look, their own memo says there's precedent here. But if you dig even one layer below the surface, you do not need a law degree to understand that the case he's pointing to justify this slush fund is not on point. It's not even in the same realm of the point. It has, in fact, nothing to do with the point. It does not support Blanche's argument in any way, shape, or form, because this Obama-era case is so unrelated to Trump versus the IRS that this legal argument wouldn't pass muster in a first semester law class. It is willfully disregarding the law and facts, and it's not because Todd Blanche is an idiot. He's practiced law for a while. He allegedly passed his bar exam. He knows this case doesn't support his argument. He just doesn't care. He doesn't.
Yeah. Also, a former clerk to Justice Clarence Thomas, who is, Supreme Court corruption over here, justice of corruption. A former clerk quit because of how blatantly corrupt this is. And it being the most corrupt action in American history, where Donald Trump in his second term has devoted so much time to brazenly enriching himself and his allies, whether it's the fucking crypto, the crypto deals, the crypto coins, the stock trades, the Boeing 747 that he was gifted from his great friends in Qatar, to now him and his family suing the federal government and being like, yeah, there's nothing that you can do to prosecute either past illegal activities or future. Sorry. I know Trump does a lot of corrupt shit, but we should never become desensitized to it. We should never be like, just another Wednesday. Well, just another thing Trump is doing, because it is so bad. It is openly monetizing his presidential position. Like the power that he and his family seek, which we've always known was in order to personally enrich themselves. But it's so blatant. Like it's so brazen.
Care. And these are the types of people who are running our government right now. And I know we know that. And I know these people have so normalized doing things that are beyond the pale that it feels like overkill to be up in arms every time they lie or engage in willfully negligent legal practices. But I do think it matters. And I do think it's important to be incensed every time it happens and to call it out for what it is.
Because I get it. I get it. It is so easy to become numb. It is so easy to be like, what the fuck what are we supposed to do? But that just hands it to them, that just makes it so that they can get away with it. And at the very least, this is why I always talk about reserving our anger, right? We can't just get mad at every little interaction that we have, especially when it's with people who are not our enemy, right? People who are not our enemy, who we waste so much time fighting with and using up our reserves of anger. But this is the type of thing that deserves our anger. This is the type of thing that we should feel motivated in that anger to call out this corruption and say, fuck no, absolutely fucking not. It's all corrupt, girl. It is. But that doesn't mean that we don't keep identifying and saying, fuck no, no.
Is only in this acceptance by normalization that these things become common practice, and we lose all sense of how a country should be run. We lose the ability to hold our elected officials and their lackeys accountable.
Fascism and extreme corruption it hollows everything from the inside out. It wants you to become numb. And the Trump strategy has always been to flood the zone with shit, to do so many bad, terrible, corrupt actions that it overwhelms people, that they simply cannot keep up. And it takes up so much of everything that people can barely hang on. But we gotta hang on. We can't let these fuckers keep doing this. We can't let them keep winning. And we certainly can't we certainly can't send the message that we're so overwhelmed and we're like, okay, just, rob us blind. Do continue to do what you're doing because we're so exhausted by it.
Accountable if we're willing to look the other.
And that's why we're doing an insurrection. That's why we're doing a January 6th. We're doing a leftist January 6th. I don't give a fuck anymore.
Their way because they do this so
We're
often,
doing
it's
it.
just easier to overlook all of it. So no, I will not be overlooking details like Todd
We
Blanche
too
citing
can get
to a
a
completely
settlement
irrelevant
from the
case
government.
in a memo backing up his overtly corrupt self-dealing on behalf of the president. Another important part of the May 18th memo Todd Blanche wrote in support of this
Fascism is like a cavity less you brush, the worse it gets, which makes it more painful
is
to
in
brush.
paragraphs D and E. Paragraph
we're
D
gonna hit 'em
provides
with
that
an
once
Uno
the funds have been
reverse.
transferred into the hands of this so-called anti-weaponization fund, the fund that will be solely and secretly controlled by 5 people handpicked by the president, then, quote, the United States has no liability whatsoever for the protection or safeguarding of those funds, regardless of bank failure, fraudulent transfers, or any other fraud or misuse of the funds. Okay, so if these 5 people make off with the funds and use them for fraudulent means, then we the people have zero recourse for the misuse of our tax dollars. Cool. But wait, it gets better. Paragraph E provides that the funds in the Slush account aren't just to be used to pay off the people claiming to have been wronged by the weaponized DOJ. No, they can also be used to pay for, quote, per diems, administrative services, funds, facilities, staff, travel, and other support services as may be necessary to carry out the mission of the anti-weaponization fund. Okay, so even though the 5 members of this board will be voluntary, they still get per diems and travel expenses covered. So we're paying for more private jet rides and lobster dinners for these 5 goons who will have full control over $2 billion of our dollars. Like, do you see how absolutely fucking corrupt this entire setup is? To say this is unprecedented would be an understatement. That's why Blanche had to point to some random Obama-era case that had nothing to do with this one, because there is no precedent for this, because it is blatantly fucking illegal. It is the president of the United States using his role as the president to award his allies and his lackeys willing to commit crimes for him with taxpayer money without our consent. Period, full stop. This is corruption at the highest level. Like, I cannot overstate how out of fucking bounds this is. And this slush fund is part of a larger pattern with Trump related especially to January 6ers. And of course, we don't fully know what's going on in Trump's head, but he's really obsessed with the people who stormed the Capitol on January 6th and then were held accountable for their illegal actions.
Yeah, it's like when the Proud Boys sued the federal government last year for, what was it, $100 million? These people love to sue the government, love to complain about the government doing handouts, and then try and get $100 million in a handout from the government after they were convicted for January 6th. And remember, too, it's like there were over 100 law enforcement officers who were injured. The same crowd that's all about Blue Lives Matter, respect the police. We love the police. Over 100 police officers were injured from the January 6th crowd. And that, of course, played a role in a lot of the convictions that were handed out that were then overturned, that were pardoned. Now these people who have sued the government in the exact same way that their beloved leader Donald Trump does.
I think it's because he sees them as an extension of himself.
Yeah. Right. Talk about a press group's playing the victim, then immediately hamming up when they get rightfully arrested. Yeah. Oh, this guy, Andrew Paul Johnson. Andrew Paul Johnson, who has described himself as an American terrorist, was convicted of his role in the Capitol riots, was pardoned by Trump, and then was recently found guilty of molesting 2 kids. Another pedophile, pardoned by Donald Trump. To silence his victims, he is said to have promised them a share of the millions that he said he was going to get from the federal government for being a Jan 6er. God, is it just a tale as old as time? So fucking classic. Fork found in kitchen. These pedophile, white supremacist, Trump-loving freaks Classic pedos pardoning pedos. Yep.
Not that he identifies with them, ew, no, they're poor, but that their prosecution and indeed persecution was the DOJ attempting to get at him through them. They're all victims here. Victims who are experiencing consequences for their actions, and they really don't like it because it's not fair to be held accountable. And luckily for the January 6ers, Trump identifies so strongly with them that they don't have to be held accountable at all. And Trump pardoned them all at the beginning of his term last year, if you'll recall. And boy, some of those former defendants sure have been busy over the last years since January 6th. According to a report from Citizens for Responsibility,
the pedophile class has solidarity with other pedophiles
and ethics in Washington, or CREW, which was released back in December, so probably doesn't even cover everything. Quote, at least 33 January 6th insurrectionists pardoned by President Trump have been rearrested, charged, or sentenced for other crimes since January 6, 2021. According to CREW, quote, 6 of the pardoned January 6th insurrectionists are charged with committing child sex crimes, ranging from sexual assault to possession of child pornography. At least 5 were charged with illegal possession of weapons, including at least 2 who had a previous domestic violence conviction. 5 were arrested or charged with driving while impaired or under the influence.
Real
In 2
patriots.
of these cases, the defendant's reckless driving resulted in a fatality. 2 were charged with rape. In 4 cases, the insurrectionists allegedly reoffended after receiving their pardons from Trump. Most recently, Christopher Moynihan was charged with a felony for threatening to murder House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries in October. John Andrews was convicted in June for violating a peace order by following the mother of his child in violation of a court order. Brent Holdridge and Zachary Alam were charged in May with burglary and breaking and entering, respectively. Other insurrectionists had...
You're telling me that the people who did treason and illegally broke into the Capitol with many who had very clear violent intent are violent criminals, are people who commit acts of sexual assault, abuse of children, abuse of women. I can't believe it.
Law enforcement that highlight the dangers posed by Trump's decision to grant them clemency. Matthew Huddle was killed during a traffic
I heard
stop
the violent
when he
rhetoric comes
reportedly
from the
resisted
left.
arrest and was armed. Nathan
Well, hold on
Pelham
a
fired
second.
on police when they arrested him. But these guys are patriots. They're the victims, okay? They deserve our taxpayer money. So the pattern is he talks about January 6th all the time. He pardons the people involved in the incident and calls them patriots. He purges all of the FBI agents and DOJ attorneys who worked on the investigations into the January 6th insurrectionists. Then last year, he created a weaponization working group, a government body within the Department of Justice meant to investigate so-called abuses of power by the Biden administration. This is a further attempt to legitimize his claims that Biden used the Justice Department to go after him and his allies.
Wait, I thought that they were Antifa. They're only Antifa when they aren't being pardoned.
To further paint his allies as victims, claiming the Biden DOJ showed anti-conservative and anti-Christian bias, which former officials dispute and which is, of course, based on no evidence, no laws, no facts, just vibes. But by creating an official working group, by sending the DOJ on a wild goose chase to investigate this so-called weaponization of the Justice Department, Trump can then point to that and say, look, it's real. They're investigating it and everything. It's all one big dog and pony show meant to convince the American people that what he's been saying all along is true, that 2020 was stolen, that the Russia investigation was a hoax, that January 6th was just a peaceful demonstration by patriots, that Trump is the victim in all of this, that he is being targeted at every turn.
He is the victim because he's the only president to have been impeached twice. That's why he's a victim here.
By evil, communist, terrorist, leftists, and Democrats, and Antifa, and immigrants, and that he, and by extension all of his supporters, is an innocent victim in this, who is righteously fighting back using any means necessary. And those means are all justified because look how unfairly he's been persecuted. And it's all smoke and mirrors, and none of it is backed up by facts or laws or anything. And that doesn't matter because he's made sure he has cult-like control over a base of people who are willing to follow him no matter what he does. He could shoot someone in broad daylight on Fifth Avenue and still have the support of his base. He was correct when he said that. He absolutely could. There are a million think pieces dropped every other day about quote-unquote MAGA infighting, the MAGA civil war, the fracture in the MAGA base, over Epstein, over Iran, over the AI picture of Trump as Jesus. And yet there are still people out there, millions of them, as evidenced by the likes of Megyn Kelly, who say he could nuke an entire country and I would still vote for him. We are a country that has lost the fucking plot filled with millions of people who are so terrified that they've completely lost their humanity and they are willing to continue to follow this person who is walking them off the edge of a fucking cliff. Okay, but then of course, it gets worse. The original memo about the slush fund was released on May 18th. The next day, yesterday, Todd Blanche issued an addendum.
Reminds me of a certain nation smaller than New Jersey.
Before the Senate Appropriations Committee on Tuesday, so Congress wasn't able to question him on this. Paragraph C of the addendum says, quote, the United States releases, waives, acquits, and forever discharges each of the plaintiffs.
Yeah, that's kind of the overall here is the way that this victim mentality, this we have been unfairly maligned. We have been the true targets here. That is what's so seductive to people, whether they are MAGA, whether they are Zionists, whether they're MAGA Zionists, people who feel that it's simply not fair. And that's why you see these bozos in Los Angeles who feel like they have been unfairly persecuted and wokeism has come for them in a way that treats them as if they're the problem. It's so narcissistic. It's so fucking narcissistic. And that's why they support people like Spencer Pratt. Spencer Pratt's whose whole thing is, I'm the victim. Karen Bass burned my house down. Literally, Karen Bass lit the match that burned my house down. And so you have people, people who follow in the footsteps of Trump who have seized this opportunity to paint themselves as victims, to list their, grievances as legitimate and ones that are worthy of being listened to and worthy of then giving them power to fix these grievances. But it's only for a specific group of people. Farley,
meaning Trump, from and is hereby forever barred and precluded from prosecuting any and all claims, whether presently known or unknown, that could have been asserted by defendants, that is the IRS, against any of the plaintiffs or related affiliated individuals, including without limitation, family or others filing jointly.
And you know what? Sometimes I see this trickle down into leftists online. This victim mentality. And that's what then has leftists fighting with other leftists and expending all their energy that way. And it's like, well, this, and I'm like, hey, don't you recognize what this is? Don't you recognize what you are emulating here? What are you doing? What are we doing? Get the fuck together. Be better than this. We must be better than this. What are we doing? What are these personal grievances? What's going on? What's going on? Come on. Get it together.
Or parties, including trusts, parent, sister, or related companies, affiliates, and subsidiaries, which arise out of lawfare and or weaponization, or any matters that could be pending, including tax returns, before defendants or other agencies. Or
seriously, that's what we always need to be reminded of. Lock in. Hey, lock in. Come on.
Departments. Okay, that's fucking legalese soup, but it effectively bars the IRS from ever auditing or suing Trump or his businesses or any of his family members for anything related to anything they've ever done. Basically, this wipes his slate clean. All his tax evasion, all his shady dealings, all his children's and businesses' shady dealings for the last multiple decades, they are all off the table for any future prosecutions or investigations. According to the New York Times, this will likely result in a $100 million windfall for Trump personally, who has been under a years-long audit of his allegedly mishandled taxes related to a fraudulently claimed $72.9 million.
Before I went live, I saw another leftist account that I follow. It's the guy who has the ASAP Rocky pick. Is his name Hassan too? I'm sorry, I can't remember. Who was attacking Hassan Piker again and being like, he's just a glorified lib. And that's the kind of thing where I'm like, what are we doing, man? I'm not saying that we all have to or should agree on every single point. We definitely have disagreements, but lock the fuck in. Why? Why are you doing this? Why is this where I see you frequently and consistently directing your energy? This is the problem that I'm talking about. What are we doing? What are we doing? Come on. So much of the left is openly supporting far. Yeah, and I want to be specific about it. There's a specific type of online leftist, okay? Specific type of online leftist. And they just are chirping all day, all night. And it's so unproductive. And it's the exact thing that I'm talking about here, where it's like, do you see what we're fucking up against, man? Come on. This is such a waste of time, such a waste of energy. And there's a way to have disagreements with your fellow leftists here on the internet that's not that. It's, you know what, counterproductive. Counterproductive. If Hassan's a lib, he's a lib, move on with your life. Yeah. But it's like they have this one goal, which is to expose Hassan Piker as a liberal, like it's some CIA operation here, where it's like, oh, they just need to get him to admit that he's a liberal. He's a party liberal. And then what? They can move on to more productive things? God damn. Come on.
$1 tax refund that Trump claimed and received back in 2010. So like, you know, when you file your taxes and sometimes you get a little refund after you file? Yeah, Trump got that, but it was $72.9 million and apparently, allegedly, completely fraudulently obtained. But with this one paragraph addendum on this random settlement agreement that he made with himself, that audit, that fraud, that theft of taxpayer money just goes away, coupled with the additional $2 billion of stolen taxpayer money.
The other thing, I'm sorry, I'm just going to add this. The other thing is I saw that Hassan person be like, say something that only a terminally online person would get. It was like Hassan Piker who said something about, oh, you know, well, what are you doing about it? What are you doing? Posting. And then other Hassan made some reference to some like tweet that I looked at it and I went, this is the most terminally online shit. Do you understand that this is not normal? Okay, it's not normal to be like, gotcha, because what you're referencing here is actually a liberal tweet, like a tweet of a tweet of a tweet, a tweet of a tweet of a tweet. I'm like, what are we doing? Yes. Hassan referencing Lockheed liberal tweets. What are we doing? To justify supporting genocidal Democrats, this man is a glorified liberal at this point. This was the tweet, which pales in comparison to your methods, also posting. He responded to someone, Hassan referencing Lockheed liberal tweets. You know what? I'm going to walk into an Arby's. I'm going to walk into an Arby's and be like, Hey, did you guys see Hassan referencing Lockheed liberal tweets? People are like, what the get this woman in an institution. Lockheed liberal tweets? Like, that's the type of thing where I'm like, what's going on? What's going on? This is unserious. You know I love Arby's fries. You know I fuck with Arby's fries.
To pay off his friends, along with untold amounts of other tax fraud that Trump and his family has probably committed over the last few decades that all just get swept under the rug. Again, the brazenness of this is fucking breathtaking.
Look, I don't agree with Hassan and everything, okay? And sometimes I think, look, I know he gets a lot of shit. Sometimes I'm like, hey, big dog. Sometimes you don't got to respond, all right? And I know. You get a lot of shit online, but I have I tell him the same things that I also say here, where it's like, sometimes you just
shoop. And I know he does let some things go and other times he doesn't. And my policy as somebody who admittedly does not have to deal with as much because I'm not as prominent, but I still have a just let's just, keep it moving. And yeah, I think he does need to remove Twitter from his phone again. Yeah. And sometimes he yells at people who shouldn't be yelled at. Sometimes he yells at people. Sometimes the wrong person gets pulled into the public square and his frustration that comes from a valid place gets taken out on the wrong people. And it can derail him. So I acknowledge all that while also being like, hey, y'all, hey, to other people, to other leftists online, I do wish in general we all posted less because I think that increases the likelihood that we are posting things that are not actually productive and posting things that are taking up space and energy in a way that is very unnecessary. So I know maybe I'm getting annoying by saying this over and over and over again, but I really do believe that a lot of times if you just put your phone down, and walk away from it, take a breath, go drink a glass of cold water, whatever, kind of just refresh yourself, then you won't be posting so much and posting in a way that is not always great. That's me. That's how I generally feel about things. Now, not annoying. I've been on the left since 2016, and it's even more annoying now than it was back then. Right. It's like I responded. Now, I know she's not a leftist, obviously, but I responded to Shannon Watt saying I would be a leftist if it wasn't for the leftists, which is just so stupid. Like, I'm so stupid. I said I would ideologically oppose the systems of power that disenfranchise and oppress the poor and working class masses if it were not for annoying individuals I personally dislike. Yeah, it's the internet, okay? There's annoying, mean people all over the place. All right? You just go in any direction and there is someone there to be annoying. We all have been annoying and we've all dealt with annoying people. It's not special and unique. That's how it goes. So I say this as someone who once was a Democratic Party card-carrying liberal who thought leftists were annoying online. And I was like, these Bernie bros, blah, 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 which was preventing me from actually broadening my understanding of politics, of ideas, of theory, of all the things that then I really started to consume myself with. I read more, I grew up, and now here I am as a leftist who, yes, I still get annoyed, and I'm sure I've been annoying to people, but sometimes you just let it the fuck go. Sometimes you just go, okay, I'm not going to deal with this. Or I'm going to take a little, I'm going to go a little offline for a second. It's like, come on. I am a leftist online who also deals with aggravating people. Okay, like somebody who is yelling at me saying I support genocidal monsters, saying that like I am pro-genocide. That person, I'm not going to fight with because there's no point to it. I'm not going to like get into the comments with on Twitter and waste an hour of my precious time. I just blocked them. Just blocked them, and that's it. Everyone is annoying. You can't let that stop you from doing the right thing. Yes, and you have to recognize too when people are annoying, but they mean well. And the internet can bring out the most annoying in people. Okay. It can bring out the most embarrassing. Like kind of just posting on social media as much as a lot of us do is embarrassing behavior, which is why sometimes people don't have the best days. Okay. Because in our real lives, we don't always have the best days. And now imagine you take a not so great day, but you are publicly posting things for thousands and thousands of strangers to see and interact with. Yeah, it's going to be a mess. Posting 20 times should put you in a facility. I became a lot more introspective once I stopped tweeting. And I still use the internet. I still tweet. I still engage. But I just try and have a healthier relationship with it. And I am not perfect by any means, but I do feel like I have taken steps and I actively work towards having a healthier relationship with being online and with the many, 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 many other people who share the same internet as me. There's so many people yelling into the void. Don't need to acknowledge them. Yeah. And I just feel like, again, there's a way to have disagreements with people, but a lot of people have become less and less capable of having reasonable disagreements. Everything is so fucking heated. Everything is an opportunity to win. A lot of people have this mentality of winning as a poster, winning as a person who's posting online. And I'm sorry, that's loser behavior. That is loser behavior. If that is how you view things, what are you doing? Also, what happened to taking things to the DMs? What happened to private messaging people? Everything now is put in the public square because it's all about winning. It's all about, well, if I have X amount of likes or if I have X amount of people backing me up, then I fucking owned you, bro. Come on. All these people trying to be the loudest voice and not focusing on the ideology. And it's made people snarkier. It's made people meaner. It's made people snarkier. It's made people nastier. It's made us kind of assume this attitude that everything has to be that everything and everyone is antagonistic. So I need to be that way as well. And, we complain all the time, too. We complain about how nasty the internet is. We complain about how antagonistic the vibes are. Well, how do we think we got here? Do you think that we didn't play a part in this as well? We're all users of the internet. We're all online, except for those of you who aren't. But we all participate in this. The mentality of being ratioed. Yes, that even becoming a verb. Ratioed you, bro. Social media is monetized and negative. Yes, and it's incentivized. Don't get me wrong. These algorithms and these billionaires who own these platforms, who manufacture these algorithms, they've incentivized this behavior. Absolutely. Of course. Of course. So explain that to a bus driver what ratio is. I mean, that's why I kind of always jokingly will be like, go walk into an Applebee's. Go to an Arby's, right? And talk about these things, use these terms. People are going to look up from their meat mountain and be like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And look, again, I will sometimes respond. I will sometimes I will sometimes do these things that I'm talking about here, and I try to do less of it. And I also try and sort out. I try and differentiate between people online, despite the fact that most are strangers that I don't know. You know, these are people I don't know, but I don't treat everybody in the same way, right? Like, I'm not going to interact with a prominent Zionist propagandist in the same way I would some rando who's being a little too much, but that I know at the end of the day, and especially if we were to have a conversation in real life, we're on the same side. Are meat mountains a real thing? Yes. All right, let me finish this video.
And once again, the Trump regime attempted to normalize this through
Owl
the thin
Service, thank you
veneer
for
of
the
the
4
legal
months.
system. A spokesperson for the Justice Department told the
HMG,
Washington
thank you for
Post
32
that this addendum
months.
is just a customary part of the legal settlement process that releases
Raph,
both
thank you
parties
for the
from claims
19
against each other.
months.
Yeah, except it's not.
Amateur, thank you
Settlement
for
agreements
21.
typically bar future claims between the parties related to the specific issue at hand in the lawsuit. So you can't sue each other again over the same exact issue. That is not what this did. This says the IRS is barred from suing Trump and also his entire family and all their businesses over anything they've ever done. That's fucking insane. That is beyond the pale. Again, we cannot normalize this. We cannot buy the regime's propaganda that this is just business as usual. They are trying to capitalize on the fact that most people don't know how this process works and can't decipher legalese. So let me do it for you. This is not normal. And what is Congress going to do about it? Yep, you guessed it, probably fucking nothing. Democrats are, of course, pouncing on this to point out that it's incredibly, unbelievably fucking illegal. But as the minority party, there's not a ton they can do in terms of oversight. They questioned Todd Blanche about it during his testimony on Tuesday. All that really does is provide a few sound bites for lawmakers to put on their social media feeds. The House Democrats...
Also, there are a lot of people who treat random internet users in the way that they should be treating politicians. Okay? All right.
Litigation Task Force filed an amicus brief with the court, urging the judge to dismiss the case with prejudice and find that because the suit shouldn't have been brought to begin with, then the settlement agreement is void as well. Amicus briefs are just suggestions, and the court doesn't have to do anything with that. And Republicans are, per usual, going to completely abdicate their duty to the American people to do their fucking jobs, completely hand their power over to the president on this one, and just roll over. The New York Times was entirely too generous to the couple Republicans who questioned the Slush fund, saying that blowback appeared to be mounting, including from Republicans like John Thune, the Senate Majority Leader, who said he was not a huge...
These liberal media institutions are so desperate to give credit to Republicans. Blowback appeared to be mounting, and it's a Republican who's like, well, I don't really know about this. On leftist infighting, Mal writes, within the ranks of the people, the contradictions among the working people are non-antagonistic, while those between the exploited and the exploiting classes have a non-antagonistic aspect in addition to an antagonistic aspect. Fuck the DMs, take it to the streets.
Huge fan.
Yeah, take it to the streets and meet each other at a protest. Meet each other at a meeting. All right? Why don't you take it to the streets? That way.
The fund and said he didn't see a purpose to it. Oh yeah, real blowback. You really told him, John. So Congress probably isn't going to do anything, but there likely will be lawsuits.
Why don't you meet at Arby's, get some fries,
to try to invalidate it? And there's still the possibility that the judge herself will say that they had no authority to settle the case to begin with. We'll see. Again, this is unprecedented and follows the trend of the Trump regime just doing shit in court that makes no legal sense and has no legal precedent and seeing what the courts do about it, if anything. My only hope is that once the dust settles on the Trump regime, Todd Blanche will be held accountable for his fraudulent abuse of his power in the name of the president. Only time will tell. If you watch all these videos and somehow aren't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. It's a great free way to help support this channel. To support my work further, consider joining on YouTube, Substack, or Patreon to get all these episodes completely ad-free as well. Also, if you like my Reagan Ruined Everything sweatshirt, you can get one for yourself at LegionMillerMerch.com. Thank you to my multi-platinum patrons, Christopher Cohen, Evan Friedley, Mark, Sarah Shelby,
all right.